The full moon energy is always very powerful and very transformational. And I always like to follow up on what my horoscope has been sort of after the fact, after the month has passed, and see if there's anything that has aligned for me and that I recognize having some sincere resonance with. Because that way I don't have to think about my energy update or my full moon update coming around, or my horoscope trying to tell me and live my life in this premeditated way where like, oh, I better follow that. So what I'm going to do today is tell you 3 themes that I noticed throughout the month of June that I think were catalyzed by the full moon on May 31st, and do a little recap on all of this. First thing that I noticed is that there was immediately a bunch of anxiety and emergency in the air. This came around in various ways in my little bubble of existence. That was like, my wife was having car troubles immediately, causing a lot of anxiety in her commute down southern Colorado. There was appliances breaking down at my job, causing people in the kitchen specifically to panic about getting food out. Obviously, foodborne illness is a scary liability when you work in the service industry. It caused a lot of panic. I noticed some other people were having their own emergencies, or things would happen very quickly. I had a lot of people coming through my bar that were normally just chilling, and then all of a sudden a phone call happens, and then it's emergency panic and everyone has to go. That staticky energy was running through the air, and even through my, just getting blown up on my phone. It's like the debt collectors are trying to come after me again. The scammers are blowing me up. I also just moved into a new house, so I'm going through all these new services and things that come along with being a homeowner. I'm getting solar panels on my house. These guys are blowing me up for documents, this and that, making sure all the bills are paid. There's always someone coming after money. But it all seemed to have culminated. This full moon time was everyone's getting the cue to buzz on high alert. But it's not all just that anxiety and emergency feeling. There was another theme that I felt of reminiscing and thoughtfulness. And this came about in somebody that I had met who happened to be from Long Beach, California, where I'd lived in Long Beach in probably 5-6 years ago, and was able to share some sentiments about that place. He was a guy who just jumped into over the past year, he jumped into the Army trying to probably make some money, make something better for his life, but taking a drastic change from his life before. He was my age, just 36, and joining the Army or taking on any new sort of committed endeavor like the Army, or maybe you're going into an apprenticeship or something like that in your late 30s to 40s, it feels pretty drastic of a change. It's not like you really don't have the same floatiness, the same driftiness, you don't have the same adaptability a lot of the times in your later 30s and early 40s that you did when you were in your 20s, when you could just sort of float around and do whatever. And this guy was appreciative that I could reminisce with him about his hometown. He had been away for about a year. He was feeling a lot of homesickness, and I resonated with that sentiment because I experienced the same thing when my wife and I first left Colorado and lived in California. And I experienced this through my wife a lot because she's always yearning for a better place in time that existed within, for her it's Denver, Colorado. And what I always say in these situations is that, there's a lot of things about places that we miss, but a lot of those things that we miss are also specific to the time frame. We're just living in a different time, and it is something that we can go back, but we'll never fully go back. All that said, the nostalgia is real, and it's something that does help us as human beings. Having that reminiscing process is helpful for the spirit and the soul. that I don't think should be ignored. I'm not saying live in that nostalgia and reminisce forever. That can drive me personally crazy, but there is an important value to it, and there's an important part of being a conscious observer in listening to someone who's, you're yearning for the past, or maybe just needing to get off the chest that, that there is a feeling of loneliness and homesickness that happens even when we actually don't go anywhere. So this sort of goes across the boards, and it's not just specific to someone who's traveled thousands of miles and living in a new place. And this sort of leads me into one more uplifting theme that I noticed, and that was the theme of finding meaning, finding empowerment, and building motivation and inspiration. And I only say this because I recently made a new friend who's another content creator. He was sharing some of his recent successes that he's built up through a TikTok channel. And it was actually wildly inspiring to me because I've been on this sort of I've been on this journey for the past couple of years of, understanding personal branding, building out content for others, helping stories be told. And he was someone who was doing it and starting to see a little bit even monetary rewards just through TikTok Shop and affiliate marketing and stuff like that, which isn't his ultimate goal, but he's basically an inspirational weight loss coach. And he's building up a course through that and bringing that motivation to people. Something like weight loss is so powerful because so many people, especially in the Western world, struggle with obesity. And I mean, I relate this a lot to drug and alcohol use as well. There's a lot of escapism that goes into overeating, the same that it does with consumption of whatever it is, alcohol or drugs, sex or what have you. And being able to show yourself, show your voice, and represent your personality as someone who has gone through the struggles of being wildly out of control with something like your weight, and finding ways to rein that back in and understand how to dissolve the mindset that was causing those habits, and giving people an example of how you can dissolve that and how you can really live a better life through dedication, through discipline, and through practice. And that aligned transformation is something that we can really end on a high note with this last full moon. If you related to any of these themes throughout June, let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear any of your stories that were surrounding some of the themes, or maybe there's some other themes that I missed that you experienced throughout June, or specifically around the full moon, last month's full moon. Let me know about it. I'd love to hear from you and see what other stories we can sort of cultivate to help empower each other. Peace.